You can stand or sit, microphones on the table. Switched on. Ah, no. Hello. Any questions?
Hi. I have a question about Boxing Helena. There was quite an uproar back when it got released. Can you tell us anything about that, and looking back, what you think about it?
Well, I think a lot of the uproar, as you call it, was partly to do with the fact that Kim Basinger was supposed to play the role of Helena, and she withdrew from the film, and then it was a lawsuit, and I think it was it created and in the lawsuit the film was described in many ways before it came out, and I think it created a lot of prejudice against the film, and people saw in it, they didn't see the beautiful romantic fable that I saw. They saw in it something grotesque and exploitative, which I don't think it was. And so I think it was just very unfortunate that there was this lawsuit. Very unfortunate that it created a lot of prejudice, and I think the film was misunderstood and misjudged at the time by a lot of people. But I think it has a life still. People still watch it, and it gets shown on cable channels, and it's available on DVD. And I think it has endured as a very interesting, independent film. And I think Sherilyn was fantastic in it. I think she's a wonderful actress whose potential hasn't been used. I don't know why that is.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I want to talk about Warlock.
Yes.
How did you prepare for the role in Warlock, and what was it like working with Richard E. Grant?
We're talking about Warlock, and the question is, how did I prepare? Well, for me, Warlock was a Shakespearean character, so he had within him a lot of Iago, a lot of Macbeth, a lot of of this kind of baroque passion, fury, and sensuality. So I relished that. I enjoyed it. I prepared by liking the character and enjoying him, and trying to be fit to do any kind of action role. You want to feel dynamic, and I think it makes a difference on what comes over on screen. I enjoyed working with Richard very much. I'm sorry we haven't worked together since then. It's like that when you're an actor. Sometimes you work with somebody on a whole run of things, and then another time, maybe 20 years go by before you see somebody else. But I like Richard, I respect him, and could easily work with him again.
Hey, I'm a big fan of David Cronenberg, and I have to ask, how did you get the job in Naked Lunch? What was it like to work with Cronenberg, and did you know the book by Burroughs, and did you like it?
I knew the book by Burroughs, I'd read it, and it was a little, it was a bit intense for me. I didn't really understand it, but I met William Burroughs in Los Angeles, and he was quite intense, and I didn't really understand him. But I met David Cronenberg, who was like a teacher, like a literature teacher, like a librarian, and he made it very clear. And because I liked other films of his, I was very happy to work on Naked Lunch. And he just asked me to be involved. The casting process is usually much more straightforward than you might imagine. A director has an idea, talks to his producer about it, maybe the casting director gives them a list of 3 or 4 people, and they just ask you to be involved, or they ask you to come in and read. And I said, "Will you read for this?" We can do that for some people, not for everybody.
So recently we've seen you on television in shows like 24 and Smallville. Can you tell us how you got the parts in that shows, both shows?
Just as I've just said, I mean, I just got a phone call from my agent telling me I never, they wanted me to be in those shows. I'd never seen them before. I'd never seen 24 when I was asked to be involved. I don't have a television. But they sent it to me on DVD, and I thought, well, I'll just have a quick look. 24 hours later, I'd sort of seen the first 3 episodes, first 3 series, so I was very happy to be involved in 24. Smallville, same thing. I was just asked to do it. There's no mystery, in the casting process really. I didn't have a deep yearning to play Jor-El, but when I was asked to play him, I was very happy to play Jor-El, and I felt a great connection with him and with Tom when we shot the scenes.
Another question. Do you have any regrets for any roles that you've played? And are there any roles that you've turned down that you thought, in hindsight, I should have done it?
Well, actors get offered, you turn roles down lots of times for good reasons, and then somebody else might take the role and it becomes a big hit, and you think, but you can't regret, you make your choices for yourself. Some things I've worked on haven't really fulfilled the potential I thought was there in the script, or it wasn't maybe a happy experience, but you move on. If you're an actor, you're always looking forward, not backwards. So there are no roles I've done which I regret, and there are no roles which I haven't done which I regret. If you're going to live as an actor, you have to embrace it as a way of life. It's a philosophy, and there is no room for regret in that philosophy.
Back to 24 for a short moment. Did you get any fan feedback? Because I get the impression that everybody loved Jack Bauer, the character Jack Bauer, and hated everyone else, and they get really angry about it. Did you get any fan?
Yeah, I remember there was, when I was first on 24, there was this character called Edgar, who was very popular. And I released some nerve gas, and Edgar was killed. And I was in the supermarket in Los Angeles, and somebody got very angry because I killed Edgar. I thought that was a success. I felt I'd achieved something. I was happy about that.
You have done the first Warlock movie, and sometimes later there was the second one.
Yes.
So what do you personally think of the second one?
Well, when I did the first Warlock movie, I was contracted to do 2 movies. And I liked the second one, and I thought that the director was very stylish. But I don't think the producers fully understood how wide an audience there was for the Warlock franchise, they would call it. When they came along with the third script, which I thought was really not interesting, and that they would, instead of trying to make a better film with a better script and a bigger film, they just wanted to make something as quick and cheap as they could. I wasn't interested, and I thought they completely misunderstood the opportunity to carry on with fantastic characters and the potential for wonderful stories. So I never saw number 3, but I know they made it, but that's where it ended, unfortunately.
Hi Julian, you spoke earlier about arachnophobia.
Yeah.
You said there are real spiders. Do you personally have any phobias of spiders at all? Or?
No, fortunately I don't. But I know a lot of people do, because we found that out when the film came along. And when in the scene when I'm dead in that film, I had about 300 or 400 spiders, real spiders, on me. And to get them all to stay still, they put them down this funnel, which covered my face. And then at the moment the cameras were turning, they took the funnel away. And I had to stay very, very still whilst these 200-300 spiders ran around. That means, that's 8 legs for every spider. It was a lot of, when you get these little legs on your nostrils, on your lips, your ears, it was quite a challenge. But I enjoyed it. I don't have arachnophobia myself.
So you've done a lot of roles. What kind of roles do you personally prefer?
Whatever is interesting to me. You can work in romantic roles, action roles, genre roles, but it has to be interesting. And I'm always looking for something different. It would have been easy just to have done genre films, but it would have been very limiting. I don't have any particular preference. I mean, I love doing Shakespeare. I've been doing a lot of theatre recently, but I love doing Harold Pinter. But the great, good fortune about being an actor, if people want to work with you, is you get all kinds of opportunities to play all kinds of different characters. And when you're working on a project, then that has your complete focus, and that's the thing you feel you were born to do for a few weeks.
Can you share with the audience what were your first steps in the business? How did you become an actor? And the second part of the question, you mentioned earlier you were doing theater work. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I was 5 years old, I wanted to be an actor. And then from 5 to 18, probably thought about every other profession imaginable, because although I wanted to be an actor, and at school was always involved in the theatre productions, the idea of becoming a professional actor seemed very remote. But somebody gave me a prospectus, a brochure for a drama school in London, the Central School, and I applied, and I got the last place for that year. So I went to theatre school, and in some ways, when I left theatre school, I was more certain that I wouldn't be an actor than I was before I went, if you follow. Because theatre school has a way of taking away your confidence, taking away your belief that you can. Everybody else seems to be so much more glamorous and talented and attractive. But I started a little theatre company with friends, and we were happy doing that. But then we got agents, and they wanted me to do TV and films because that's where the money was for them. But I enjoyed working on film. I actually thought that the medium was an incredible opportunity to have a far more wide-ranging life than maybe in theatre. So I pursued film work in all its diversity in my my 20s, and it was, and then I ignored theatre for a long time, 12, 15 years, but in the last 10 years I've enjoyed doing theatre in Los Angeles, in England, and doing radio too. Radio is a wonderful medium for actors. You can really use your voice and text in a very pure way. It's a surprisingly fulfilling opportunity to work in radio.
Oh, can you tell us what you're doing at the moment? What projects are you working on?
I just finished earlier this year some work on David Fincher's adaptation of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Have you read the book or seen the Swedish films? The story is of an old patriarch, who asks a journalist to find out what happened to his niece 40 years before. And that patriarch is played by Christopher Plummer, and I played the same character but 40 years before. He's called Heinrich Vanger. And that was we filmed in Sweden. It was a great experience. Enjoyed working with Fincher very, very much. I did a film for HBO this year, set in the fashion industry in New York. I then toured. How's this one? And then I toured with this play about Harold Pinter, which John Malkovich directed.
Irgendwelche Hinterwäldler-Kostüme selbst mir ausgedacht. Also wunderschön.
You sure you want me to use this one? And
Aber mehr halt wirklich in Horrorbereich, decke ich ab.
anyway, it's been an interesting year, and I'm about to do a film in London with Gabriel Byrne, a London gangster film, and I haven't worked with Gabriel since we did Gothic together back in 1984, I think. I don't you can hear me, I think, so it's no we can talk. And then next year there are different projects being talked about, which I wait to see if they're real. If you're an actor, unless you're attached to a television series, you don't make plans too far ahead. It takes some of the fun away, some of the spontaneity.
Playing young Christopher Plummer, did you meet him? Did you talk to him about his behavior? Did you just study his work to know how you should play a young Christopher Plummer?
I didn't think of myself playing the young Christopher Plummer. I thought of him playing the old Julian Sands. So, no, I actually didn't meet him because we filmed the flashback section first before the people in the present arrived. So I never met him, but I, familiar with his work and trusted David Fincher to guide me into how he wanted the character played. And they seemed pretty happy. The trailer's available, I think you can see it on YouTube. It's a great trailer.
Hello? Yeah, I was wondering, since I'm from Sweden, have you seen the Swedish one?
Yes, I saw the Swedish films.
You did? Before?
Yeah.
Before or after?
Actually, before. I mean, I'd read the books anyway. And I enjoyed the books very much. They were sort of reminding me quite a lot of Charles Dickens, actually. So I'd enjoyed the novels, and I enjoyed the Swedish films. But it didn't, but Fincher's film is its own thing. It's not a remake of, I don't think he saw the Swedish films. He's not remaking anything, he's just doing his own film.
I have another quick follow-up on it. Have you seen the Fincher movie yet? Is it?
I haven't seen it. I've only seen what you've seen on YouTube.
It looks good.
they're having a preview screening next in a couple of weeks in Los Angeles, but I'll be in London. So.
So where do you like to work most, in the States or in the UK?
I like to work anywhere where the work is interesting. If you're an actor, you have to have a nomadic gene. You have to want to be a traveling player, a wandering minstrel. I've done films and plays in more than 50 different countries, and everywhere is everywhere is a different experience. I like working in Europe very much. I like working in the States, but I like working in Africa or Asia just as much. In some ways, the less exposure people have had to filmmaking, the more interesting an experience it is, because it cuts through so many of the strata of society. You know, if you're part of a film, it's like being in the circus, and you come to a place, and it gives you great access.
Has there ever been a role offered that you couldn't choose because of time schedule that you really wanted to do?
Yeah, that happens a lot where you get conflicts. You know, you can't do everything. You just have to be very accepting of the fact that you can't be everywhere all the time. And that's what I said earlier. If you're an actor, you can't live with regret. Your path has to be direct. You make a choice and you go with it. And when there are conflict, there's only a conflict between choices whilst you're thinking what to do. Once you make a choice, then you go with it. And there are always variables when you make those choices to do with material, the character, the other people involved. I mean, when I was doing this play about Harold Pinter at the Edinburgh Festival, and then on tour around England during August and September, quite a number of projects were offered to me, which would have been fantastic, but I just couldn't do them. It wasn't available.
Out of your film career, television career, and you said you did some theatre work, what would you say is your greatest achievement, or what are you most proud of? Why?
Well, still working as an actor, full stop. For me, whether you're working in theatre, radio, television or film, it's still a live experience. It's a process which is the creative act. You know, it's incidental that there's a TV or film setup recording what it is you're doing. You're still doing live work. People say, oh, but when you're working on film, there isn't an audience. Of course there's an audience. There's, 30 to 50 people around. So you're playing to them. And so I don't have a preference. I don't feel any particular film has been the greatest achievement. The great achievement for an actor is to work. And I'm happy that I still have that opportunity on a regular basis. It's also a lot of fun to come to an event like this. I've never been to a convention in Europe before. I've been to 3 or 4 in America, and it's immensely pleasurable. So thank you for being here. Thank you.
Hi, you said you stopped theatre for over 10 years at a time. How was it getting back in? Because, I mean, working in front of the camera and working for a crowd, it's quite different.
It was. I mean, I had to, I was very nervous about it, going back in front of live audiences where there isn't a film crew or but you know, it's a little bit like if you're an athlete going, if you've been throwing the discus for 12 years and then you decide to try the long jump. I mean, yeah, you just have to train a bit differently, but it's still athletics, and it's still about just doing the best you can. I'm not sure that analogy is the best, but you get the idea. But I love doing live theatre work now, but making the transition back to it, I was nervous about it, but it's all about preparation.
So, very sorry, our time is up for today.
Okay, well, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. See you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Julian Sands. Thank you very much.